The affidavit is out. There are now, for everyone to see, really, Black Lives Matter, right? At least to see parts of it, 38 pages, most of it just blacked out. Well, not one indication of nuclear secrets held at the former president's Florida residence. So what have we learned? Well, we've learned from the document that agents used reports from CBS News, a Trump statement, and a Breitbart article to justify this raid. Well, considering the fact that the team responsible for the now thoroughly debunked Russia collusion investigation is the same team responsible for this raid, we're now left with more questions than answers. So let's bring in a couple experts to discuss it. Victoria Tunsing is the former chief counsel for the Senate Intelligence Committee, and Joe DeGeneva, former U.S. attorney for Washington, D.C. Thank you both for joining me on Saturday. Thank you.
You bet.
All right, guys. Well, there was something interesting in the few parts of the affidavit that we were allowed to see pertaining to these seized documents. Quote, the FBI agents observed markings reflecting the following compartments: dissemination controls, HSC, HCS, FISA, Orcon, Norforn, and SI. FISA, that's what really caught my eye, guys. The FISA courts are what allowed the DOJ to spy on the Trump campaign while Obama was in office. We also know Trump actively worked to declassify many of those documents related to Crossfire Hurricane when he was president. Does that raise any red flags for you that the same authorities who abused the FISA process are the ones taking back those FISA documents?
Well, I think, as Inspector Clouseau would say, I suspect everyone and I suspect no one. The problem for the federal government is they have a dirty team. Just like James Comey was America's dirty cop, this team of FBI agents and DOJ personnel are dirtied up by their previous behavior in Crossfire Hurricane. They have no credibility left. And anyone, by the way, who claims that it's not kosher to criticize the FBI and the DOJ line people at this time is living in a different universe. They're not trustworthy anymore. They do not have the presumption of regularity, and they're not entitled to it.
Mike, I'll tell you what I found important in the affidavit, and there wasn't much, but there was one thing, and that was that there was communication going on between the Justice Department and the Trump lawyers as in June, early June of this year. Now, I don't know what all that communication is because that wasn't revealed, only the DOJ side of the letter, but it doesn't matter. Whatever it was, if there was some dispute, the next step, the next least intrusive, if you remember that phrase from Merrick Garland, next least intrusive step was to go to court. And they didn't do that. And when you read the warrant, it is a general warrant. It's a fishing expedition, and you have to assume that it's a pretext, and they did so in bad faith.
The classification process or the declassification process seems to be a little confusing. We have experts on this network all the time talking about how the president's really his final authority on what is classified and what is not classified. And then yesterday, Joe Biden made this comment. Take a listen to this.
Well, I just want to know, I've declassified everything in the world. I'm president. I can do it all. Come on. Declassified everything.
So he says he can do anything, Joe Biden says. Can he? Could Donald Trump do the same thing?
I think for the first time in a couple of years, he's right. He does have the ultimate authority to declassify. So did President Trump while he was president of the United States. In fact, it's fascinating that in that warrant, you would think that if they were going to really want to get Trump, they would have said he didn't declassify these documents. In fact, they cite Trump's lawyers and others as saying that he did declassify them before he left office. And by the way, just because they have markings on them, you know, all kinds of formerly classified documents have markings on them. That doesn't mean anything.
I'll tell you, I have a very important question. President Trump was going to Mar-a-Lago throughout his presidency, throughout the whole time that he was president. He used it. He called it the Winter White House. Why weren't there sufficient facilities made in Mar-a-Lago? Why didn't they make a SCIF, which is where you're supposed to have classified information? They're accommodating Joe Biden by building a fence for $500,000 in Rehoboth Beach. Why didn't they put whatever the appropriate accommodations were for the president to have classified information? I can't believe he had a house that didn't have accommodations for classified information for 4 years. And now they're screaming?
And it just doesn't make any sense. For 4 years, classified information, briefings, documents were being brought down to Mar-a-Lago. What were the procedures that were used during those entire 4 years to secure documents there? It's a fascinating question which has yet to be addressed by anybody.
Yeah, there's still a lot we don't know about this entire procedure. Turning away from the affidavit now for a moment, another bombshell dropping this week about the FBI's intervention in the political realm. Mark Zuckerberg spoke to Joe Rogan the other night about the Hunter Biden laptop story. Take a listen to this.
The FBI, I think, basically came to us, some folks on our team, and was like, hey, just so you know, like, you should be on high alert. We thought that there was a lot of Russian propaganda in the 2016 election. We have it on notice that basically there's about to be some kind of dump of that's similar to that. So just be vigilant.
Victoria, do you think if it were Don Jr.'s laptop we were talking about, that the FBI would have maybe lifted a finger to stop its spread?
Hey, Mike, I'm old enough to remember when media outlets said no to the government. Do you remember Pentagon Papers? Is anyone around old enough to remember that the government couldn't go in and say, hey, don't print this, be careful about this? And I'll take one other thing. If I were Zuckerberg, I would have been better prepared to answer that question. He really fumbled around.
One of the best things about that interview is that he actually spoke the truth for a change rather than his usual doublespeak. The issue for me is, who were the agents? Who did they brief at Facebook? Who sent the agents? Who were the higher-ups? That should be part of any future oversight if in the House, if the Republicans are lucky enough to take the House.
And I want to know the date, because I want to know if the FBI had access to that computer prior to that briefing that they gave Zuckerberg.
Yeah, a lot of folks want to know the answer to that. Joe DeGeneva and Victoria Tunzing, thank you both for your time tonight. Appreciate it.
You bet.
Sure.